Welcome to Imperfect with Rebekah and Sandra. You know what I realized? Last week I said it backwards because I was like, with me for Sandra and Rebekah over there.
Ew.
Yeah.
I didn't even notice at all.
Yeah.
Well, and we had Sabine too.
Right. Well, and right now I have her too, but luckily she's sitting on the steps. We have this landing that kind of turns down, so it faces our TV. So she sits there kind of like her own little chair, and she's watching Moana right now.
Oh.
So I can see her while I'm recording.
Multitasking, kind of on topic for today.
Yeah, I was gonna say, which is just fine because that's kind of what we're talking about. I wanted to chat with you about early momhood to see if what you could remember. And sounds like you have a friend, like a neighbor, right, who's pregnant.
Oh, so my neighbor just had her baby.
Okay.
But this is one of my old coworkers, and she has her very first birthing class that she's gonna do, and her husband's gonna be gone for the very first one. So she has to go with her. And I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so honored, first of all, that she even want me to go. Because when it comes to like pregnancy, momhood, I tend to get very, what's the word? Like, I mean, our hormones are insane. Like, but we get kind of very particular. That's the word I was looking for. Like what we want. And so I was like, okay, but I've had 4 kids and I've never even been to a birthing class. So I don't know what to expect, but I'm excited. And so we've been talking about, pregnancy, things that nobody told us about to expect, or, like things that she has ready to go for the hospital that nobody even told me that was a thing. They gave it to me at the hospital, but it was
like what?
Like the whole afterbirth kit. It was like the Perry squirter.
Yeah.
I just called it a squirt bottle. What are they actually? Oh my gosh.
I think it's just bottle. Yeah.
And,
or maybe wash.
Perry bottle. And then I don't remember if her kit came with the witch hazel and stuff. But like my favorite thing was like right afterwards, they gave me a little Perry squeeze bottle, and then I had witch hazel pads. Man, I never knew relief like that. And it was like, it's probably because it's not the greatest thing to talk about. Like it's not glamorous, but I also told her, I said I remember being so upset that nobody would say anything to us or kind of give us a heads up about this. But I forgot about a lot of it until we started talking this whole morning. And I'm like, maybe that's why we keep having kids, because we forget how horrible it can be and the aftermath and all the things that you're not prepared for. And
our brains and hormones are literally programmed to forget so that you will have them again. I don't think speaking of that. I don't think that those hormones and genes are wired properly, because I definitely remember. And I only say that because my friend, Jenny, she was saying she was only going to have one after she had her first one. And then 3 months later, she's like, that wasn't too bad. I could probably do it again. And then after we had gone out, like maybe a year later, she was like, no, 6 months in, I was like, yeah, I could do it again. Let's have another one. And I was like, no, I never, ever felt that way. I was like, no, I survived, so I probably could do it again, but do I want to? No, not really. No. And I think, speaking of that aftercare kit, I think maybe for me, because I was following someone that I happened to find interest in on Instagram, and they had posted that Perry bottle, the one with a L, so that it was easier to squeeze upside down. Because the one from the hospital, I got pretty much all of it from the hospital too.
Yeah,
is not as easy to use. So the hospital will probably give it to her. But there's this company called Frida Mom that she had posted that bottle and tagged them. So I went and looked at them on Instagram, and they had this ad that they had created that, of course, regular TV would not air, because it showed women after, their life after having a baby, like having to get up in the middle of the night, going to the bathroom, cleaning themselves. Like, and it wasn't like you could really see their privates, but it was enough to like give you a good idea. And I was like, holy shit. Like even all the friends that just had a baby before me, like within a year, they must have forgot. They didn't mention any of that.
I don't think I mentioned a whole lot too either.
No, I'm sure you didn't.
In fact, I remember holding St. Patrick. Like, I don't even think they had cut the umbilical cord yet. And I was like, I can't wait to do this again. And the nurses were all like, this bitch is crazy.
Yeah. Did you catch him then? Did they offer for you to catch him?
Not with him. Oh my God. I almost had a 3rd-degree tear with him. Oh, there's a
well,
reason
I remember how big he is. So,
oh my gosh. And he wasn't even my biggest.
Oh,
so, no, I think the one that would have been the closest to being able to, was maybe Vico. But I think, I don't know. I do remember them offering me if I wanted to cut the umbilical cord. Nathan he did the last one. He did Dexter. But Dexter was also the only one I did naturally. And I'm glad I got to experience it. If I ever had to have a child again, I would not do it. It was a harder recovery for me. Like everything. And I didn't tear or anything with him, but for some reason, just, I don't know. Physically, mentally, emotionally, I just had a much harder time with him. So it might not have had anything to do with the epidural. But at least the epidural kind of helps you like just relax, and they say push, you just push and you're good.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that because I had most of my labor was back labor. And I actually used the exercise medicine ball because, well, they had suggested it. And then once I started using it, I was like, okay, yeah. And then I tried to sit up a little bit and then I had the contractions in the front and I was like, oh, hell no. So I was like, yeah, let's go back to the back. So I leaned forward onto the bed. Because I did not like that. And then finally at like midnight, they gave me an epidural. And then they were like, you should try and get some rest. But at like 3, I couldn't. At 3, I was already ready to like have her. But they were apparently so busy. There were 12 babies born that night. Yeah. And so I didn't start pushing until like 7. And I'm sure I was probably ready at like 3. Because I was telling my husband, I was like, I bet this is why. Because he slept for like an hour. And then I didn't really sleep. And I was like, I feel pretty good in it right now. I could probably, I think I'm ready. And so I was like, oh, I bet this is why. Cause for a long time I had been waking up around 3 o'clock and I was like, I think it was because she probably was supposed to be here at 3, but because, I'm on a doctor's schedule and stuff, yeah. I didn't have her until like 9.
So did you cut your hair? Sorry, totally.
No, it's just
hold back. I was like, oh, hold up. It looks like you chopped your hair off.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time I've done that.
I know. Fortunately, your hair grows back fast. That was the only time my hair grew was when I was pregnant. My skin would be glowing, like my hair. But it's also when I would decide to chop off my hair. Like the only 2 times that I've actually like done like a talk about hormones, like and how it will affect you and make you absolutely insane.
I'm still trying to find that picture. I remember I told you I'm pretty sure you were pregnant and it's just a super short picture. Yeah, you waving hi. I need to find it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So I will say, aftercare was a huge thing, especially with they're like, it's like a heavy period. I'm like, I have heavy periods. That was not a heavy period.
And the ice
way more.
Do they still do the diapers, like the frozen diapers?
They do like they'll freeze the pads for you, not a whole diaper.
Ours is like a whole diaper. Oh, I loved it. It was the best.
But they that company that I was telling you, I bought one of their like aftercare kits, and it had like the bottle, these ice pack pads, they had witch hazel foam that you would put on them, and the wipes. So like, I loved it.
So the one thing that we had like the giant mesh granny panties. They're like,
we'll give you some of those, but they like don't freeze that.
And then the pad that's like this.
Yeah, the giant
if you're listening to us, I'm like
watching. That they don't sell anywhere that big, and you're kind of like, oh damn it!
And you're like, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm gonna need that. Yes, you do. And then they would put the diaper ice pack in the middle, and then they would line it with the witch hazel pad. So you could get like the and what did they actually mix in the bottle for you? Because they mixed something in my bottle.
Oh, they didn't for me. But it depends. It's like a witch hazel. The hospital warm. I went didn't do it the same as the hospital my friends did over here. Well, they had a different hospital too. So
I just remember it being warm, and then after getting clean, and then you would have this cold pack with the witch hazel pads, and it was like, oh my gosh, because it was like a freaking football after the tearing and everything. It was horrifying. Nobody was like, hey, by the way, when you go in, don't be alarmed. No heads up whatsoever. It was just like
yeah.
So even though I was excited to have more kids, I was also so scared that I was gonna have, but it was mainly I didn't get my original doctor. He couldn't stay. And I had a guy that should probably have not stayed either. Like, you should never have to tear that bad. You know?
My doctor wasn't on call, but I wasn't surprised being with the pandemic. And this is part of what I wanted to talk about.
Yes.
My whole first year, like my doctor is super in like demand apparently. So if she wasn't available, I ended up working with a nurse practitioner that worked with her a lot, midwife. So I saw her probably more than my actual doctor. And then someone I hadn't met at all, but I loved, the midwife that delivered was another person that had worked with her a lot. So I did see a doctor who was on call that I had never seen before, but it was because I had a little bit of complications because she actually had her umbilical cord around her neck and she was holding it. So once I did finally like try to sleep, I had accidentally taken, all the monitors that they put on you for the contractions and the heartbeat for the baby and then for yourself. I had accidentally moved them when I went to the bathroom once because you take it all with you, beforehand. And then I didn't put it back on right when I came back. But I had started to fall asleep and my husband was asleep. And he's like, did you accidentally move the monitors again? And I was like, what? Oh no. And then the nurses like rushed in. So she would drop, her heartbeat would drop a bit and it didn't quite recover as well as quickly as they wanted. The first time, like, because I had one of the opiates they give you, which I do not suggest personally, but that's just me. I kind of didn't have a reaction, but I know he was like, when they first came in there, it was scary. They were like, shook their heads at each other. And he was like, I was really, really worried. He's like, but she finally recovered from whatever. So they actually had me get on my hands and knees a bunch. Like I had like almost every time I had a contraction, I would like, and I like would have to readjust. And I was, like I said, I was on my hands and knees a lot. I probably should have just tried to deliver that way. I should have asked them and I totally forgot about it. They probably wouldn't have let me anyway though, because I had the epidural. They were surprised. They were like, wow, you're really, I'm surprised that you can do that with the epidural. They're like, I can barely do that on my own. But I think that's the mama bear that already comes into you because you're already a mom by that time. You're like, whatever to make sure that the baby's okay.
Exactly.
I wasn't thinking, I was doing what they told me would help. I was like, okay, great. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. Now that you're mentioning, I remember having, like the exercise, the birthing ball.
Yeah.
And, leaning on Nathan a lot, but I remember more with the epidurals than I do without, because you're just so like in tune to like what's going on that you're like in your own zone. So that was a good thing about the epidural, is that I wasn't so tired. Although the only problem with those is that I always had to get the IVs, and those would make me swell up like a freaking balloon. I remember leaving after. No, I still had to have it with Dexter, because I remember leaving and I was getting my makeup on, and Nathan's like, "What's wrong with your face?"
Oh.
I was like, "I'm swollen, honey. This is nothing new." And
What's wrong with your
I would like gain so much weight from that, and just like all the extra water weight, and I would look like, like my face, I'd come out like.
Speaking of that though, the afterbirth tummy, what do they say? It looks like you're 3 months pregnant still, or 4, I don't know. The only reason I knew was because, again, someone I followed on Instagram was like, let's give you a little enlightenment. Like, you're not going to look exactly like you did before you were pregnant.
Yep.
But in a nicer way. Like, because they're nicer than. And I was like, oh, I never noticed that before. But that makes total sense.
I think it might have been actually, is either my doctor or my nurse with QP. And they're like, just bring comfortable clothes. Don't bring your pants that you fit into before you got pregnant, because you won't be wearing them home. They're like, some people do, the lucky ones. But they're like, more often than not, it's not going to be the case. So I just remember my mom helped me look for some cute, like nicer looking sweatpants, because back then I lived in sweatpants. I mean, not much has changed now. It's just leggings. But I try to make myself, here I am in a sweatshirt. This is just how I am. But because my favorite pair back then were the ones that were my Tinkerbell ones, and it says Tink.
Oh yeah. You had those for a long time.
Because, I was still a kid.
You were.
It's a baby having a baby. It's crazy. Like,
yeah, I will say for me, I think I told you this before, but I feel like my doctors they wanted to be optimistic, that sometimes they didn't really tell me things. And I'm terrible at asking questions in general. So like, I didn't think to be like, what about, and right now I can't think of a certain thing, but like one of them was often like, every time I went into, I think I told you this, every time I went into an appointment, whether it was virtual or real, and they're like, do you have any spotting? And I'm like,
any what?
Spotting? Yeah. And I'm like, no. And then finally, who are we saying? Are we ready to go? Where are we going? I almost was like, should I ask if I should be spotting? I was like, I don't understand. So yeah, I know, baby. So yeah, they were just so positive that like, I think they should have just been like, if you are, that's not really a good thing. Cause they literally asked me every time. And I was like, oh, and then the other thing. So when I did, when my rota broke and everything, which is funny, I tell everyone that I jinxed myself by telling you.
I know. I was like,
good. I don't think she's coming anytime soon. She seems pretty happy. The night
and
before,
it's gonna happen tonight.
Bye. So then the next morning I had a little bit of spotting, and then one of my coworkers was like, she's older, but she was like, did your mucus membrane did your mucus plug come, however it is, I'm like, what the hell is that?
Because you were like, I had this like discharge. I'm like, oh, that's your mucus plug. Like, you're gonna have your baby anytime. You're like, I think I'm good. I remember telling Nathan later, I was like, she's gonna have her baby tonight. And then I didn't hear from you for like 3 days. And I was like, yep.
No, well, yeah, there was discharge, but the mucus plug actually came the next day. Cause then it was at like noon. Yeah. Cause it was spotting in the morning. Lunchtime was the plug. And then my water broke, at like 4:30. And so the funny thing about that, or I thought it was funny, was I was about to go to the bathroom. I was like, I kind of need a pee. And as I'm like almost there, I'm like, I know I didn't just pee myself. What is that? Because it was more like a trickle, we're used to Hollywood with like just a splash of water. And I was like, that has to be my water must have broke. So I went to the bathroom and then I go to my husband. I think my water broke. I was like, I'm gonna call the doctor again.
Oh
She's like, you call the advice nurse because they tell you to. And they're like, yeah, you want your water? It sounds like your water broke. She's like, so I'm going to go ahead and contact the hospital and let them know that you're going to work your way in. She's like, if you haven't had dinner yet, I suggest you do that if your contractions are bearable. And I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm fine. So we had dinner in the parking lot because again, COVID.
Gosh.
We got Chipotle, parked and ate, and then he drove around because that was the other thing a friend had told me. She was like, I was like, oh, I'll be fine with my contractions. And she's like, and they ended up dropping me on the knees because I decided that we were going to park and like, we're going to all walk together. And she's like, I made my husband go get a wheelchair so that he can take me in. And I was like, okay, be dropped off at the door. Got it.
Yes. You think you're going to be okay. And then it goes from like 0 to not like, to not okay real fast.
So we didn't see anyone while I was pregnant. We didn't really see anyone for her first year. So it's been real interesting as a toddler to meeting people. And that's what we do these days. We've seen a lot of family for the most part, not a lot, but like the close family here. So that's been nice, but that's about it.
You guys have a fabulous weekend. If you are not already, you guys can follow us at Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, imperfect WRNZ, or imperfect with Rebekah and Zandra. And then we also have our podcast airing on Spotify, Podbean, Apple.
Yep.
And Facebook, you can listen to it as well. And then YouTube, you can watch us. If you want to see us in all of our glory right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And please don't comment on my camera at work. I know it's not great, but when you have a toddler, you do what you can. All right.
Right. I know. We are doing the best that we can. I know. Also, if there is something that you felt that was maybe helpful, let us know, leave a like and a comment, and make sure that you're following us on wherever it is that you are listening or watching. We'd love to get your guys' feedback and input. So hope you guys have a perfectly imperfect day, and we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye. Hey, Sabine, you want to say bye? Say bye. Okay. Bye. Bye.